Chapter 15. The anger is in general sudden burst of mental energy. On such moments, the person does not know consciously what he is talking and why is he behaving in uncontrolled way. When the storm of this burst uncontrolled energy is drained out, mind gets calm. One feels relaxed and then invariably he feels bad inwardly. However, outwardly he may not admit his animal instinct and inhuman behavior. On the other hand, when this mental energy is allowed to release consciously, although outwardly it looks the burst of energy identical to the first case, but it does not hurt the self. On the contrary, it gives the feeling of peace, since it was the controlled and conscious anger on the other for his improvement without any interior motives. It is for the welfare of others with the controlled, forceful release of energy. This type of anger is shown intentionally for some specific purpose for the benefit of the fellow being. Only self-controlled persons, those who have full command on their senses and breath, are inwardly completely silent and can act in this controlled way without involving and hurting themselves. Their sole aim is the welfare of the fellow being. However, anger of the first type, where sudden burst of energy takes place, is the most common in the society. It is common among the family members and it is spread worldwide. This needs to be well understood, analyzed, and to find the means to control it is very significant. There are various causes of uncontrolled anger, but basically it can be classified in the two main causes. The first is psychological and second is physiological. Physiological anger is linked with the physical action of the body, that is, physical sickness, high blood pressure, heart issues, and other physical ailments, whereas psychological anger is linked with mind, emotion, and other subtle conditions. The physiological cause is the primary cause of the burst of anger under various conditions that shows unpredictable behavior of the person. Physiological anger can be managed by controlling and overcoming the physical ailments, but psychological anger cannot be controlled without self-efforts and modulating the attitude of life. However, regulated breath and stomach breathing plays a major role in controlling the anger. Tranquil breath is a miraculous approach to handle the anger. The anger, due to the psychological causes, is basically linked with the unfulfillments of the desires. When desires are not fulfilled, this may lead or develop anger or depression in the mind of a common man. These desires can be related to material, sexual, or power, or maybe of any other nature. The unfulfilled desires generate sudden burst of mental energy in the form of anger on subordinates in the office, on younger peers in the profession due to various reasons. It may be just or unjust. Sometimes this energy can burst on elders and superiors. Egoism due to position, due to money power, or because of administrative glamour can make a person inflammable on the smallest issues. Environment, surroundings, and social interaction can ignite such people for an insignificant and irrelevant issue. Although he does not have any control at all on such issues, these might be beyond his mental inceptions. Increasing time gap between breathe in and breathe out, that is, discontinuity between breaths, can control the mental irritation, that is, discontinuity between breaths can control the mental irritation frequency, and then subsequently it will be helpful to control the anger. The question is what a person must do if he really wants to control his anger and has keen desire to overcome it, so that his peace of mind is not disturbed under any conditions. Anger must work under his command, and not that he is governed by anger and subsequently repents after showing the anger. If one critically looks within himself, He can easily analyze the cause of anger for each incident, but as a human nature, he will not try to justify and will try to find the faults with others without blaming himself. For a common balanced human being, judge yourself and not the others gives insight regarding the causes of anger. Broadly speaking, the one who gets angry easily is having very fragile and weak mind. Such people with weak mind are incapable of taking slight jerk of pressure of stress in day-to-day life. Or in other words, the wisdom-related capacity of their mind is inadequate and has a limited human capability. However, they may be very intelligent, capable in worldly or materialistic activities. It is similar to the case of milk pot having a small capacity, but pot is more or less full of milk. Any excess milk, if poured, will be spilled out. In other words, managing bigger responsibilities with more administrative power with less capacity of mind is the same case as of small milk pot and excess of milk in it. As on heating, milk boils and spills out from such a pot with little heat, similarly bursting of energy takes place immediately from a weak-minded person under slightest stressful conditions. So, the remedy boils down to the following measures to control the anger. The first approach is to reduce the quantity of milk in the pot to avoid the spillage of milk by the excess heat to the pot, so that the boiled milk comes up to the pot top surface but does not spill out. Similarly, power or responsibility from such a person must be minimized so that he does not get more heat, warmth, or egoism of power of any kind, so that his anger because of power egoism remains within boundaries. The second approach is to use bigger capacity of pot with the same quantity of milk in it, such that even by excess heat, boiled milk remains below the level of the top surface of pot and never spill out under any conditions. Practically, in other words, the concerned weak-minded person must increase his mental capacity and make his mind more strong, cool, and silent simultaneously so as to take up the irritant situations without getting angry. In other words, the anger can be controlled either by having less desires or by less money power, less power of position, less responsibilities, rather less than one's own capacity, so that he's always conscious of his mental thinking and mental turmoil. Generally, a conscious mind is not irritated, and even if he is irritated and gets angry, it will only be an artificial anger, a conscious anger. In any case, such anger will not harm the self and will be used only for the benefit or improvement of the other fellow human beings, without selfish motives. The anger will not be under the influence to fulfill one's own desires. Frustration and anger will not appear irrespective of desires are fulfilled or not. If one is mentally conscious, aware, awakened, and selfless. Actions, if performed like inaction, just for the sake of actions for the service of the human being, without any ulterior motives, cannot create anger, unhappiness, and frustration of any kind. Furthermore, to enhance the mental capacity, divine subtle qualities are needed. These can be cultivated by controlled breathing, observation of breathe-in and breathe-out process beside Shunyaka technique and creation of tranquil breath in the system. In case a person takes higher responsibility more than his natural mental capacity, his irritation and anger in day-to-day life are likely to increase. To overcome his irritations and to control his anger, he needs to increase his mental capacity by meditation or prayers to Almighty, that is, by chanting, being with the self, and by increasing his conscious levels in his awakening state. Thus, By his positive efforts and grace of God, gradually his mental energy will increase. That will make him strong, and he will be able to handle the situations without getting burst and to release his mental energy with anger. Rather, he will use his mental energy in creative work and restore his mind in silent regime. In general, proper controlled breathing is the remedy to control anger, since breath is God. In any case, to overcome anger, one needs to change his attitude towards life. One must work with discrimination and with the sense of non-attachment. One must not manure the position to fulfill his desires. Also, he must have positive attitude in the background of his mental thoughts, so that the Almighty has given him this particular level or position in society, whether lower or higher, to serve him in the form of fellow beings, being attached to him with the best of his capacities. It must be understood that all rewards, failure, and success belong to the sacred power. Nothing in reality belongs to him. He needs to discharge his duties with utmost responsibilities and care. With such lively attitude in mind, he will be far away from egoism of any kind. And, under any circumstances, anger will not dare to approach nearby. And thus one can become the master of his anger. Even if temporarily any anger comes, it will get subsided without hurting his consciousness. Besides the above, the food consumed affects and influences the mind of an individual or person. Rajasic, hot, spicy, and tamasic, sour, processed, or leftover type of food physiologically affects body and irritates the system in different ways. The evolvement of senses, that is, eyes, ears, tongue, nose, and skin, with various irritable activities, also act as the food for the senses. This irritates the mind appreciably through different koshas, layers, or sheaths of the body, and this acts as an indirect origin for anger and irritation. In general, self-restraint, that is, control of senses from undue involvement in undesired activities, do help to restrict the psychological origin of the anger. Furthermore, if required, it is not harmful to enjoy the senses to the maximum extent, and then, by self-experience, after discovering ultimate futility, the sense pleasure gets discarded automatically itself, and then no self-restraint will be needed. In general, anger is instantaneous like a spark in day-to-day life. If one is conscious, it is checked at the crucial instant. It diminishes immediately. But in stressful paranoid cases, it may take a very critical turn that is extremely fatal for the companion and other fellow beings. Paranoid cases cannot be benefited psychologically, and even medical treatment may not give long-lasting solutions. It is very delicate, dangerous, and suicidal to live with such rare and extreme cases, although apparently it looks such people are extremely good, well-mannered, and courteous. However, slight disagreement and deviation from their mode of thinking can be inflammable in all respects. Various aspects of stressful behavior, up to some extent, can be controlled by slow, steady, and by good chewing habits for certain class of such sufferers, and can reduce the intensity of anger in a very limited way. Although stomach breathing is very helpful to have close vigilance on anger. Anger is more dangerous than sex and greediness. Instantaneously, anger can spoil all human relations, psychologically without any logic. And nothing remains except the thoughtless ash of spoiled and strained relations after the spark. This is irreversible damage. On the contrary, sex and greediness damage, shuttle, and disorganize the relations, but such damage of relations is up to some extent is reversible, or at least can be modulated. In a nutshell, one has to be really careful in handling the self-anger and stressful angry person. Anger cannot be controlled by anger, as fire cannot be controlled or checked by fire. It can be controlled with patience, forgiveness, and can be instantaneously checked at times by surrender only. However, one loses own personality by living constantly with stressful paranoid character. One must try to avoid such personalities, to live constantly with them to save him without damaging his own mind, well-being and happiness of life, and increase stress level in self, which can turn or change him as an angry person in due course. The only way, if one wants to control his own anger, he must turn himself towards divinity, become spiritual from the core of his heart and prayerful. With the increase of divine nature, anger will diminish itself and get controlled automatically without self-restraint. The egoism of such a person by divine nature will get dissolved by itself, and without egoism, anger cannot sustain. Furthermore, proper breathing and witnessing the breathing process by awareness can handle the anger. In short, to turn the face from the materialistic worldly way of living to the divine way of living, to step into being, and to be beyond time and space with discontinuity is only unchallenged solution to control the anger and to face the angry person. There is no other foolproof remedy to deal with this chronic epidemic. By these divine means, consciousness is manifested that enhances the divine energy in the system. It increases divine qualities. Subsequently, patience increases, mental control is enhanced, metabolism slows down, and thus, being in conscious state, in general one does not get angry. Even if he is angry, it will be mild and conscious anger. Furthermore, if one is consciously alert and mentally decides that he will not show anger immediately, but after few hours of getting anger or next day, then he will never be able to show anger, since anger is instantaneous burst of energy. In a nutshell, manifestation of consciousness and being with the breath are the best remedy to control the anger and to handle an angry person.